Good morning, everybody. I see it's 8:30, so we're going to try to get started on time. Welcome to the 4th and 5th grade parent coffee with no coffee. Hopefully soon we'll be able to have coffee. I'm Laura Kennedy. I'm director of the lower school. Also speaking today will be Dr. Kristin Whithey, who's our academic learning specialist, and Mr. Scott Pasieka, known as Mr. P to the kids, who will also be speaking today. So our agenda today, so I see some of you who were here the other day for the grades 2-3 parent coffee. It's a really similar agenda today. I'm going to talk a little bit about curriculum updates and our approach to updating. Talk about the Character Strong social emotional learning program, the Good Citizenship program, PE updates, tell you a little bit more about school families and elaborate on how that went. And then Dr. Whithey will talk about her services, literacy, and support that's available. And then Mr. P will talk about his classes and how he works with the kids as well. And then we'll have time for questions and answers. So just a little bit about curricular review and our approach to updating the curriculum. We're really taking a really measured approach to reviewing the curriculum and updating, because this is an awesome school with excellent teachers, and there's really not a big need to make any changes, but there is a need sometimes to update. So for example, some of our textbooks have copyrights of 20, 30 years ago. I know some of you who maybe went to the Meadows are saying, you know, my kid's using the same textbook, and that's not typical in schools. Typically you update you get a new copyright every 5 to 7 years. So we're really looking at that carefully to see what we need to update. And also, this is really kind of like another first year for me. You know, I'm really looking at things, I'm seeing a lot of events and things for the first time since they didn't happen. So everything from pancake breakfast to programs to things like that. So obviously I couldn't make any kind of updates to any of those without seeing things first. So I'm really looking at this as kind of a first year as well. And there's just no sense in making change for change's sake. So if things are working, they're gonna stay the same. And if things need to be updated, we'll look at it together as a committee. Research really informs our decision making. So we look at research, what other schools are doing, what leading institutions tell us. For example, neuroscience really informs a lot of the way we teach now. So back in the past, when we went to school, the teacher might have talked for half an hour, might have lectured for a long time. We know now kids need chunks. They need to get up and move and take brain breaks. You might hear your kids talking about taking a brain break or using a Go Noodle or something like that. We also want kids to talk to each other a little bit more than they did in the past. There's an expression I'm really fond of called, if you want them to hear it, you talk. If you want them to learn it, they talk. So there's a lot of turn and talk at your table kind of things happening. And then sometimes we'll look at research and we'll decide something different works for the Meadows. So for example, an example of that is oral reading. So it's widely considered not a best practice in education that kids read around the room. However, it works here at Meadows. Our kids are strong readers, they're competent readers. So that's something that, in the face of research, we might say, well, that works for Meadows, and we're not going to change that. So there's some older, outdated texts that we simply can't get anymore. So sometimes that informs decision making. And this year we really started with texts that teachers wanted to change. So just a couple of updates here and there. I also just wanted to mention that this year I implemented team leaders at each grade level. And that is really to develop consistency across the grade. So in 4th grade, our team leader is Ms. Collins, and in 5th grade, it's Ms. Bookout. And that's really to look at things like, not necessarily we want cookie cutter classes, but we want your experience to be similar across the classes. So things like grading practices, homework levels, all of those things we want to be consistent. So I'm really asking the team leaders to always keep talking about that so that we make sure we're consistent across the grade levels. And with all that being said about updates, there's really been very little updating in 4th and 5th grade this year due to, again, taking it slow. The only real update we made is to our social studies text in 4th grade. We changed over to Impact Social Studies. It's the same content, it's just updated, as I said. And the students really, the main focus here is the students develop stronger critical thinking skills. So there's a real focus on these words: compare, contrast, make connections, investigate, find evidence, analyze. And that's really much higher level thinking than just what is the capital of Mexico, but really digging into these big issues a little bit more meaningfully and more critical thinking skills. So that's really the only update that we've made in the curriculum. I do want to talk a little bit about Character Strong. and why there's a need for it, why there's a need for a social-emotional learning program. What is social-emotional learning? It's really a focus on these skills: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. All super important skills to develop in students. And why do we need one? Well, there's a lot of research out there that working on these, what sometimes are called soft skills, or EQ, is really important to helping academic performance. There's dozens of studies about this, and this is just one I cited up here, that academic performance improved on testing by 11 percentile points, which is significant. It also reduces aggression and emotional distress among students, and increased helping behaviors in school, and improves positive attitudes. A strong social-emotional learning program improves overall school climate. So the simplest definition of climate is how people feel when they come to campus. We want our kids to feel happy, safe, get along with each other, and just feel like they have a really positive learning environment. And Character Strong and our social-emotional learning program, we feel, really contributes to that. The focus on this program is on monthly character traits. So we started with courage. Last month was respect, and we're going to move on to perseverance as well, which is all about grit. So the way it works in the classroom is a little different per class, but the teachers are given a plethora of activities, books, prompts. So they usually start with like defining it. What is respect? What does that look like in our classroom? They're given a lot of videos to watch. They're given activities, games, and then a whole bunch of books that support this as well. So they'll be reading about respect, or reading this month about perseverance and grit and sticking to it. The other day I walked into Mrs. Ospey's class, and she was doing an activity called the Power Line activity to talk about respect. So I'm going to actually ask you to do this right now. Then we're going to actually stand up in a minute. And this activity is just about seeing our differences. So this is called Loathe It or Love It. So I'm going to ask you just to stand up in your seat for a moment. Broccoli, if you love it, you move to that side of the room. If you loathe it, you move to this side of the room. So, lots of loves, couple of loathes. Okay. Next one is singing in public. If you love it, you move to that side. If you loathe it, you move to this side. There's a couple singers over here. Hey, who knew? Mrs. Gregerson, let's just sing in public. Okay. Speaking of, that just reminded me, I didn't put it on my slideshow today, but it's something fun. I have a student council now in 5th grade, and we were brainstorming ideas. And one thing that they want to try is karaoke at lunchtime at recess. So we're going to be starting that about once a month or so. So some of your kids might be performing. Okay, another couple cleaning the house. Love it over there, love it over here. And then last one, getting a massage. Love it over there. Love it over there. Yeah, I find it strange that people don't like getting massages, but there are always a few who don't like strangers touching them, is usually what I hear. So, okay, thank you. You can have a seat. So those kind of activities are just to teach kids about differences, just fun activities that then the teachers would talk about, what does it mean if, your friend doesn't like cats or dogs or that kind of thing. And just kind of, that was a respect kind of activity. So I just want to speak a little bit about the Good Citizenship program. So we were forced to change it last year because of COVID, because we didn't have programs. But then the teachers and I really decided it really seemed to work well. And so I just wanted to kind of explain how it works this year. So it happens naturally and not on a schedule. So the teachers can give a Good Citizenship Award at any time. So not just once or twice a month kind of thing. Any teacher can give it any award at any time. So music teachers, science, etc. can happen. We mainly focus on the character traits. So last month was respect. So I spoke to 18 kids last week in my office who got the award last week about respect. And that's awesome that we have such a school culture, and that I was able to give out 18 citizenship awards. It also on classroom goals and improvements. So a teacher can give it for somebody working to just get better in the classroom. And students can get more than one. And they come to my office, we chat about it, we really try to engage in a meaningful dialogue about it. They get what's called a green slip in their hand, and then they come, they find me when I'm there, and then I mail home this Good Citizenship Award, which tells you exactly what they did. And like I said, students can get more than one. I had a student already on his third, and when he came to get his third, he's like, I just can't believe this. I've gotten 3 of these, and they were actually 3 different classes, so that was really nice to see too. So hopefully your students will be receiving one, and they can receive them at any time of the year, and this really eliminates part of the stigma. I know I heard from the teachers, it was really hard if your child got a Good Citizenship Award in the second part of the year to really convince them that that was still a good thing, and especially if it got later in the year, April and May, so hopefully this helps eliminate some of that stigma. PE classes, I just want to talk a little bit about. We increased the class time to meet the national standards this year. So on Mondays and Thursdays, their periods are 45 minutes instead of a half an hour, which particularly with the construction this year was a great decision because it takes longer to get up to the gym. And then twice a week, the whole grade level goes together. And so this accomplishes 2 things. It gives the teachers much needed planning time. It's really important for teachers to have planning time together, again, to look at that consistency I was talking about earlier. And it also provides opportunities for more differentiation in PE. So we can do it group by many different ways, by skills if we're working on skills, by abilities and things like that. And on those days there are 3 teachers. So Mr. Jack Copeland from upper and middle school also joins as well. And then we're also assessing more this year in 4th and 5th grade in particular. So you should be receiving those assessments shortly as soon as they get finished. So they're assessed on things like their strength and their motor skills and their throwing and catching abilities, and you'll get a report as parents. And then finally, I'd like to just talk about school families. Just hopefully you've heard about this a little bit. Every student in the school has been assigned to a school family, so there's 41 groups. The seniors are called the head of family, and they're running the family is the idea. And then all of us faculty members, everybody on the faculty and staff from the business office to everywhere is assigned to a family as well. And so we started our first family. We're going to meet once a month. We've started our first group meeting a couple of weeks ago. And the idea is to increase community so that they get to know the kids in their family, so when they see them around campus, they're like, that's my 8th grader, that's my 6th grader. When they hear that somebody scored a touchdown in the football game, that kid's in my family. So it's really designed to just build community. But I've heard from teachers that the first family meetings were kind of a mixed bag depending on the seniors. So some of your kids probably came home super excited, like, oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I heard one family, one teacher reported, one parent said that their child couldn't stop talking about their family all weekend and seemed to know every single kid in the class already. But then another student came home and said, oh, it was okay, it was a little boring. So just give it time and just encourage, a lot dependent on the personality of the senior, and kind of, somebody who's a little more shy, maybe the activities didn't go as well. But we're really proud of this program and hope it will go well. So if your child didn't have as positive experience as the kid who came home, there was one senior, literally, not only did they develop a name for their family, which they were asked to do, they came up with a chant and a song. So as they were walking back from the upper school, they were chanting their chant, and all the kids behind them were repeating it. It was just so cute to see. And that's the idea we want for all of the families, to achieve that level of community. So I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Whithey, who's going to talk a little bit about her services that are available, and then Mr. Pasieka, who is going to talk about the classes he does with the kids and how you can talk to him as well. So Dr. Whithey.
Good morning, everybody. I am in my 2nd year at the Meadows, but I still wanted to take a little bit of time to introduce what it is that I do here and then how I can help serve you, as I'm pressing all sorts of buttons up here. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But I am the academic learning specialist here, so my role is both to support within the school and then also to serve as a resource for you. So within the school setting, I work to help look at curriculum and instruction for the teachers, making sure that we are best supporting all of the students within their classroom using bright, innovative ideas and great materials. I also work to help them progress monitor and make sure that their students are making the growth that we would help or hope that they would be making. and then identifying those students who maybe need additional challenges or additional supports, and helping to build in both within the classroom setting those accommodations and modifications, as well as providing some one-on-one or small group attention for some targeted supports or challenges if going above and beyond what the regular curriculum might offer. But what that looks like for you at home is that I'm also a resource for you, whether it be that you want to get connected with a tutor within the community, or you're looking for an audiologist in the community, or you are looking for ways that you can engage in fun reading programs at home, or you're looking for additional ways to approach math at home. So I am your support here to help you brainstorm ways to meet your child's learning needs and or connect you with other resources in the community that might be able to also help do that. I am very excited. We have 2 new programs coming onto campus this year. The first is our lending library that we are starting. So I have a set of family engagement packs for reading and for math for each grade level. And so what we are offering is you and your family can sign up for and check out one of these packs, and the start date will be on a Monday, and then you'll return the pack the following Monday. And it's a pack of games and activities that you can do to make reviewing of reading skills or reviewing of math skills in a fun way, rather than doing targeted drills or additional homework that sometimes happens. This lets you sit down and have a family game night that also happens to reinforce your reading and math skills. So you will be getting a note in the backpack today, kind of explaining a little bit more about how the lending library works. And then I will be your point of contact as you decide, hey, I'd like to check out a game for this week. Just contact me, let me know what grade level, what topic you're looking for, and I will get you the pack in the backpack that following Monday. Another exciting program that we're doing is offering a little bit more targeted learning support after school in what we're calling the PALS program. Right now we are starting the PALS program for our 1st and 2nd graders, but moving towards bridging up all the way through 5th as we continue throughout the year. PALS will be a program that supports our middle schoolers and eventually our high schoolers coming down onto the lower school campus after school and engaging their students in targeted, again, learning games or fun ways to approach learning that support their specific area of needs. So whether it be they need to work on building their reading fluency, we might have a game or a fun activity that the middle schooler or high schooler will play with your child to build that. Or if they need to practice their multiplication facts, we'll find a way to make that fun and engaging and engage with their peer in middle or high school for about half an hour after school. So while this program is only supporting 1st and 2nd graders for this next few months, we do have high schoolers on board that are excited to come down and start working with our 4th and 5th graders beginning in December or January time. So be on the lookout for that handout too. And that is pretty much all of my support services, but if ever you have a question, please feel free to reach out to me. I am a support for you as much as I am for the teachers and your children. And then our second half of the student support service team is to Heath.
Kristin, thank you, Laura. For those of you who were here earlier in this week, you know that I know there was a lot of information just thrown at you. So just like I do with the children, I would do with you and give you a minute to kind of process what we just heard. Maybe think about a question that you might have for our Q&A. Maybe just check your phone and talk to the person next to you. So I'll give you a minute to kind of get a little brain for yourself. When I muted this up in the class, I put my pinky in the air. That's how the kids know that it's time to pay attention and choose my pinky, because it's the quietest finger I have. Not someone that likes to be loud, not someone that feels I need to be loud with the children, because they're pretty respectful. I try to show them that exact same respect that they should. I guess what I'm up here to talk about is why I'm here and what I'm doing here. I think in order to understand that, you have to understand where I came from. So I'm a kid from Chicago. I spent my whole life there. And and I got the pleasure of getting a master's degree in clinical counseling. That led me to a license called LPC, or Licensed Professional Counselor, which is a great thing because it allowed some flexibility. I got to try various different jobs. I got to work in hospitals with kids with chronic illnesses. I got to work in my private practice with families. Finally, I landed in the schools. I really fell in love with the schools. I think school is a place that a lot of learning happens for kids, and I'm not just talking about the books. I actually tell kids that you can't learn from a book. It's actually impossible. That book was written by a human being. And it's very important to learn from each other and listen to each other. And that's what I try to instill. My classes always begin by reminding children that we are here to talk about social, emotional. You have experience with socializing. You have experience with emotions. So I am not here as a teacher. I am not here as a student. I am here as both. And so I do not believe that I need to teach kids everything. I believe they're really smart and I need to listen to learn about them. There's things that kids know that I can't. What's it like to be a student at Meadows? What are the challenges of a fifth grader in 2021? In order to understand those, in order to help in those things, I have to be a listener first. I'm going to talk a little bit about the logistics of my position. First of all, when your kids see me. Twice a month, I'll go into their classes, every single class in the lower school, and I'll conduct a discussion. I don't call them lessons because, again, I am a student as much as I am a teacher. We talk about important things. We talk about things like perspective, truth, and empathy. Schools have a lot of assessments, but these things are hard to assess. What grade does your kid have in empathy? How is your child doing in honesty? Are they a C student in truth? In order to learn where your child is at on these things, we have to listen, we have to talk. Through those processes, we have very difficult conversations, things that are hard to talk about, and that's what I really am trying to bring into this building is a trust in our staff. That you have somebody not just at home, but also here to bounce those ideas off. Kind of beginning the process at this age of your child in 4th and 5th grade of leaving childhood and trying to start to think like an adult. I have to caution myself against that. Kids at this age start to grow. Physically, they start to look like adults. Mentally, they're kind of exposed to the adult world. Their vocabulary increases and they can talk like an adult. But I always have to remind myself that they are still a child. That their self-awareness, their self-control, their impulsivity, that took me a long time to develop. And that I can't put my adult expectations on a 10-year-old child. I do a lot of things to remind myself of this, mainly listening. I'll even go as far as on my laptop, I put a little Lego. Because that way, if I remember writing about a child or documenting something about a child, I am remembering this is a child. This isn't me. Another question that I hear a lot is, when you will hear from me, when will the counselor contact me? At this stage, social conflict is expected. We understand that kids are starting to enter more adult-like relationships with each other. They're starting to notice differences in each other. And inherently, that comes with some problems between each other. Every time a math teacher notices that your child can't figure out the problem, they do not contact you. If they did, you'd be getting a lot of calls. So every time a child encounters a social conflict, I will not necessarily contact them. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is, like I said, this is developmentally expected. We expect kids to fail. We expect them to not know how to do something before they do. I always remind myself that every single thing that I knew how to do, I didn't at first. Eating, I would miss my mouth, and my mom would say, Scott. Walking, I would fall. Talking, anything, you name it, I couldn't do it. I had to fail. So when your kids fail socially, sometimes, I understand. Another reason I won't always contact you is because we are not here to foster dependence in this situation, and I want kids to try this stuff. I'll have a good conversation with them, give them some tools that maybe they can try next time they come to their friend, bump heads. But I have to let them do it themselves if I want them to learn it. Now, if a problem persists and is becoming ongoing, then you will. If a problem goes beyond what is a normal, expected childhood quarrel, certainly you'll hear from me. If there's something that I would want to know about my own child, you'll hear from me. There is a level of trust that I have to have with students to engage in conversations like this. There are things that they have to know are between me and them. Those can't be safety concerns, and they know that. Those can't be huge life problems, and they know that. But little things that happen in school, little things that are on their mind, we're beginning to practice talking about those and not having to manage those independently. No one should have to do that. Life can get hard. That's why we have friends. That's why we have families. That's why we have people we trust. Other things we work on are managing the load of going to Meadows. Meadows is a highly academically rigorous school. They pride themselves in that. That's a great thing. I'm a firm believer in holding a child to a high standard, but I'm also a believer in understanding the challenges that come with a high standard. Things like stress, things like anxiety. Some of our children, I listen to their weekly schedule and it's busier than mine. Being in a school for 7 hours and being challenged mentally, trying something new for 7 hours is hard. Then they go to violin, go do some hours of homework, maybe some gymnastics, eat some dinner, clean up, wash up, and wake up and do it all over again. We allow them to do that because we think that's what's best for them, and in a lot of cases it is. But we have to teach the quote-unquote soft skills that come with that. I'm available to talk to at any moment. I encourage you to reach out to me. I know that the idea of a school counselor at this school is still kind of new. And I know that new is hard. I said at my last meeting, for better or worse, change is hard. Even if I'm leaving my toxic ex, it's a hard change and my pain still miserable. So don't make up in your head what I'm here to do. Come talk to me about it. I'm a firm believer that it takes a village, but if the village is not in communication with each other, it's not much of a village. We have to be on the same page, and that will involve disagreement. That will involve listening and understanding each other and hearing different perspectives. It will involve doing exactly what we're expecting our children to do. So let's not hold our children to a standard that we don't hold ourselves. If there is something you don't like about what we're doing, come talk to me. If there's something you need clarity on, please. Since I've started here, I've felt very welcomed by this community, specifically the children. They've been wonderful. I don't think that every kid in this school needs counseling. I'm not here to engage in a clinical relationship with 400 kids. I couldn't even if I wanted to. But I do think that beginning to think for themselves is important. Starting to challenge things from childhood, ways that we saw the world as our worldview grows. And that needs coaching and guidance. And that's what our lessons are about. We don't tell kids be nice to each other. We let them talk until they come to the conclusion, I should be nice to someone. that has a lot better chance of sticking. I want to thank the parents. I've got to talk to a lot of you already. You've shared your wonderful children with me, and it's been awesome. I hope that that continues. And I just again want to say thank you. It's been an awesome time here at the Meadows, and I hope you get to know every single one of you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And now we have some time for any questions and answers for me or for any of us up here. Yes?
Who's putting together the school family activity? Who's in charge of it?
Oh,
is that coming from the seniors? Is it coming from you?
No, it's coming from a few adults that work together, some administrators. I'm one of them, and then Mr. Rampillo, who's the Dean of Students, I think is his official title, in the upper school. So we work closely, we debrief after each activity, and then he works specifically on our activity planning and coaching and training the seniors. Yes?
How are you going to roll out the new textbooks? Like, is it going to take a year to do that for all of them?
So the question was, how are we going to roll out new textbooks? So yes, it is looking at just going slowly, looking at where the need is. We do it by committee as well. So when we looked at the social studies, it was a committee of people who were interested, along with the department chairs as well. So we will be looking at, like most likely in the next year, looking at changing over and updating the math curriculum because it's going out of print. So that will be, it's actually out of print right now. So that means a lack of support for it. You can't get textbooks anymore. So that will involve people from the middle and upper school. And because math is kind of a big subject, that will involve likely parent meetings as well, so we can explain what our choice is. But we're starting now to look at things, and it takes a long time because you want to vet it carefully. You want to look at talk to other schools that are using them. That's what we do with social studies, for example. And then we just look at rolling it out right now. So.
Is there an entire school you have any textbooks, or is it just the large schools?
I believe the entire school has always looked at updating textbooks much more frequently than lower school. So there was a little bit of a, not a stigma, but a kind of a feeling that keeping a 30-year-old textbook was a good thing, I guess, from people in the past year. I don't have that same point of view, and I know certainly department chairs in middle and upper school, they would be reviewing their curriculum all the time. I really think you would never see a 30-year-old textbook in a high school classroom or in a middle school classroom, but for some reason it was considered that was okay here. And again, top schools do not use 30-year-old textbooks in classrooms. Yes, question?
With big families, what can we expect as far as transitioning to middle school as a family for the first time if we don't have any older kids in school?
I didn't quite hear the question. I just heard transition to middle school.
Yeah. Can we expect as with big families anything to happen during the year to prepare students, parents, getting into middle school transition?
So I think the question was about improving the transition to middle school, or what we can expect.
Yeah, not just like curriculum, but also to Mr. P's point, like emotionally, what can they expect as far as that big change of getting to sixth grade?
Sure. So the sixth grade team meets, especially towards the spring, frequently with the fifth grade team to just talk about what they can expect with the incoming students, everything from their ability levels to their personalities. And then in the spring, we do a visit day. We call it a move-up day. They go and experience a day in the middle school. And Mr. Siegel meets with them and answers questions and things like that. And that will happen closer to the end of the school year. Yes?
So I just have a comment about the Kristin program. This is my second time hearing this.
Sure.
I have 3 kids in lower school and 1 in middle school, and I went home and I asked them about it, how what they thought. So just like feedback from my children, but obviously everyone's different. They like the Kristin program, but are getting like small rewards here and there. Like one of mine's already gotten it, got an email, but he was kind of upset that nobody really knew that he got it. And all 3 of them, during the grades, all 3 of them enjoyed the uncertainty of getting it. They made them work hard all year. I had some that got at the end of the year, and some that got at the beginning of the year. But they liked the fact that their parents were called, that it was a big secret that our program came in, they were looking to see if their parents were here. And it made the people that wanted in the beginning of the year, they looked up to them, they thought, how can I get it? And they made them try hard all year long. So I know you weren't here for that, so you didn't get to experience it, but just feedback from the mouths of children, they liked it. So I don't know if there's a possibility to keep what we currently have, because I think that's great too, but also maybe bring back like something like that for next year or later on in the year. People did enjoy that aspect of it.
Okay. So just to recap, just kind of, her kids were talking about preferring a more public kind of presentation. So yeah, I could do something. I'm very interested in the student opinion, so I could do a student opinion survey as well and get a little more feedback. I certainly know the teachers prefer it this way because there's a lot of behind the scenes stress and things that go on. There's a lot of politics that goes on. There's a lot of phone calls from parents that go on with the big public presentation. Why isn't my child gotten it yet? Why is it, April, my child got it first the last few years? So that's certainly the teacher perspective, but I'm very interested in the student perspective as well. We did talk a little more, because it came up in a prior coffee, about making it more obvious in the classroom. We certainly don't want it to be a secret. In a lot of classrooms, the kids know. They know when they get it, and also in some classrooms they announce it. This is the kind of things that happen in the classroom, so we're definitely going to increase that so that it isn't meant to be a secret. One second grader the other day came up to me on the playground and said, one of my friends just got a good citizen, and she totally knew why, and she explained it, and she said, I can't wait to get it. So that's kind of more of what we're going for, that it's more public so that they influence each other with a positive behavior. But certainly take your comments into consideration. Thank you. Yes, over here.
With that, instead of emailing it,
Sure.
and do it in the classroom.
Sure.
Rather than just mailing it, so I would say get that,
Yeah, so that comment was maybe they could get a certificate or get it in the classroom instead of mailing it. Originally, the reason I mailed it is I thought it was a big deal to get mail because nobody gets mail anymore. So I thought that was really like, oh, isn't that cool to get something in the mail? But a kid the other day actually told me, he was very worried, he said, we don't have a mailbox. I said, I'm sure you do. No, we don't. She was so adamant that they didn't have a mailbox. So that made me think, to your point, oh, maybe we should be not, maybe the mail isn't as exciting anymore as I thought it was. I'm excited when I get mail, so yes, I think there's a question behind you.
Well, I also wanted to comment from the perspective of a student. My son received the student award as well, and it was so genuine, and it was so, like, the fact that it's, truly merit-based and not politics-based, and it's like, okay, let's get over the year, and oh, you didn't get one, okay, let's get you one at the end of the year. I truly think that this is a huge change that is very, very positive change, and it really made my son feel valued and appreciated and seen, and only makes me want to do better. And not from the perspective of getting another Good Citizen Award, which would be wonderful, but just an acknowledgement of his humanity.
Sure.
And I think that this is far better than the award ceremony that may or may not be meaningful.
So just because I know we're taping, just to recap that she's giving another perspective that her child felt that it is a lot more meaningful, valuable, and prefers this to the public display. Certainly when they come to my office, I really tried to have that real genuine connection. So especially last year, this was a big help for me to get to know the kids. So we'll chat about everything from what they're doing on weekends to around my office and quickly learn that I'm pretty into golf and things like that. So it's a good experience as well for them to break down that and have that meaningful connection. This is exactly why you got a good citizen. Yes, in the back.
Just more feedback. My child also got Good Citizen, but his experience was different. He got acknowledged in front of the class, and he felt really wonderful about that, but he didn't have the opportunity to come and see you, and he hasn't gotten anything in the mail, so he's been looking at the mailbox since like the second week of school.
I'm sorry to hear that. Every once in a while I do hear that too, because we hand do the addresses, and so I would definitely remedy that. So I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
I want to make one more comment on this lady's question regarding preparation for middle school, and I thought this was an important thing to say. The monthly theme is perseverance. And when I think back to middle school, I think it was a very challenging time in my life. I think a lot of people agree middle school is a lot of change going on, things can be tough. So when I'm talking with kids about middle school, I'm talking about 5th and 6th grade, I talk about challenges. I talk about social challenges, I talk about academic challenges, I talk about things getting hard. Social challenges, when they happen to your child, are a very intense thing. Everyone can hear me say right now that obviously we want kids to go through growing things and we want them to figure some stuff out on their own, but when it happens and my kid's kind of the victim of it, it's a little harder to see that perspective. Inherent in perseverance is struggle. If I never struggle, I cannot persevere. Perseverance is literally overcoming struggle. I have a lot of parents that come to me when there is a social struggle and say things like, we don't want this for our kid. We brought our kid to a school like this so they would not have to experience this. If I could take all of the struggle out of a child's life, I would not. Imagine if we took all of the struggle out of a child's life, send them off to college, and then that's the first time they have to encounter this. This is where you're supposed to be, under close watch by family, by trusted adults, by teachers. Probably there will be a time where you and I are in the office talking about this exact thing. And it might be hard for you to hear this when the shoe's on the other foot. So just remember, as I always have to remind myself that inherent in learning is failure. And in order to persevere, we must struggle. So we don't bulldoze their obstacles. We coach them through them, and we teach them how to get back up. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for 1 or 2 more questions if there's any questions. Yes?
Just a comment. I know the 4th graders are really sad they're not getting to lunch monitors this year. Because it's sort of like a rite of passage, so to speak, to be the lunch monitor once you make it to 4th grade.
Okay.
So I know my daughter especially was like very heartbroken that they weren't doing that.
Okay.
And I know it's COVID, and so you got to manage that. But I know 4th graders especially were really looking forward to it.
Okay.
It's like kind of thrown out there a little school when you get to do that.
Okay, so the question was about lunch monitors, and apparently something that kids were looking forward to. Okay, so if the situation changes and we can go back to doing that, we certainly would consider things for the reminder. So that's one of those things I haven't seen. Yes, last question.
Speaking of lunch, things about the food this year, did we change the lunch program?
We changed the director of the program. I know it was a little bumpy at the beginning, but I haven't heard a lot of complaints lately because I'm in here almost every single day, and I really haven't heard many complaints. And there's also always now, at the beginning, they were sometimes running out of sandwiches and salads, so there's always a main meal, hot meal, and then there's sandwiches and salads. And we were running out sometimes by the time the 4th and 5th graders got
The
there.
taste, it was like completely different than last year, and she loved last year and this year. And I've heard from a couple of parents that are doing the full lunch the whole week, and we always do it because she won't eat anything else that I put in her lunch. But she has complained, and I've heard a couple other parents say that kids are not liking the lunch, so I don't know if
Okay. If you some feedback, yeah, certainly. I do know there's been some supply issues. I think we've all heard that around the country in many different forms. Apparently, it's going to get much worse in the next few months. I'm hearing you're saying start your holiday shopping now because there's. But I definitely have heard from our food director that sometimes it's a supply issue. So sometimes, for example, the kids were complaining the other day about the cheese on the pizza or something, and it was a different cheese. They noticed things like that. So, but definitely, we're trying to improve it. If you have specifics, you can email me or really. Okay, thank you for coming, everybody. Happy Friday, and have a great weekend. The door's always open. Thank you.